Hello ladies and gentlemen, Mr. G is here and I am back again. Today we have a massive review of RTX 5050 against Intel's only flagship card Arc A770 16GB edition and the GOAT GTX 1080 Ti. Buckle up for the wild ride. As we all know, gone are the days of affordable and impressive GPUs. AI made sure we get scraps these days, unless of course you have a couple $1,000s to spare and not afraid of burning your house down. You can buy latest and greatest NVIDIA RTX 4090 or RTX 5090 for inadequate prices. But for the majority of us who are looking for a budget gaming choices, there is a huge dilemma to deal with. Go for the latest RTX 5000 series budget cards, or go for the all flagship cards, or maybe go for the less reliable brands like Intel. So what you supposed to do? Well, fret not, my precious viewers, Mr. G is here to help you. Here we have 3 budget cards and only one will walk out as the silver's king. First silver's royal participant is Palit Dual RTX 5050. Definitely not very marketable name, sounds more like some cheap Temu speeder bike model, but here are the specs. Latest NVIDIA generation weakest discrete GPU from 2025 with 2560 CUDA cores and 20 latest generation RT cores, measly 320GB per second memory bandwidth and paltry 8GB of GDDR6 VRAM memory, only sucking up to 130 watts of power. Second silver's royal participant is the GOAT, Gigabyte Aorus Extreme GTX 1080 Ti, 2017 NVIDIA's greatest flagship card ever produced with 3584 CUDA cores and no RT cores, almost half of a terabyte or 500 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth and 11 gigabytes of GDDR5 VRAM memory, sucking approximately up to 300 watts of power. On paper, this card looks very promising indeed. And last but not least, third silver's royal participant is the outsider, Intel Arc A770 16GB limited edition graphics card. 2022 Intel flagship card, actually still the only flagship card Intel ever produced, with 4096 shading cores, 32 RT cores and 560 gigabytes per second memory bandwidth, and of course 16 gigabytes of GDDR6 VRAM memory, sucking only up to 228 watts of power. Can third the RTX 5050 with a lowly specs come out as a winner against its mighty more powerful opponents, at least on paper? Let's find out in the benchmark section. Disclaimer: all benchmarks were performed without any upscaling technologies, to measure raw card performance only. Benchmarks for GTA 1080 Ti and Arc A770 were performed in February this year, and RTX 5050 mid of June this year. Check the benchmark rig specs in the video description below. Now off to the benchmarks. In the GTA 5 Legacy Edition we have undeniable champion here, and it is the GOAT GTX 1080 Ti, showing why it's called the GOAT. Within all 3 contestants it produced the highest average FPS in all 3 resolutions. In the GTA 5 Enhanced Edition running with maxed out RT settings, we have a new contender here, the pesky RTX 5050 flexes latest generation RT core, muscles and won the round comfortably against the Intel's flagship card. Ouch! Of course, GTX 1080 Ti cannot run ray tracing on hardware level, so it does not have any RT cores. What a shame. Apologies, I didn't have any 1080p benchmarks data for GTA 5 Enhanced Edition without RT runs for RTX 5050 or A770. But as what you can see from 1440p and 4K data, GTX 1080 Ti takes back the lead and claims another easy win here in all resolutions. Surprisingly, in RDR2, we have Intel first victory. In all resolutions, Arc A770 apparently performed exceptionally well, beating the other 2 competitors and GTX 1080 Ti being dead last, struggling with 1% lows in more demanding resolutions. Witcher 3 might be 11 years old game, but latest Witcher 3 DX12 current generation update introduced in 2022 is the pain in the ass for the modern hardware. It has software accelerated horrible RT implementation which tanks any modern and or all GPUs with its bizarre ray tracing performance, providing almost zero visual difference with RT on. As we can see, none of the GPUs can run Witcher 3 with a max RT beyond 1080p resolution, but Intel's Arc A770 takes another surprising victory in demanding Rasterization title, just edging out pesky RTX 5050. Removing RT equation from Witcher 3 does not change much. A770 continues dominating its opponents in all resolutions, with GTX 1080 Ti coming last, showing why it is 9 years old GPU. Cyberpunk 2077 is notorious hardware hog with its path ray tracing stuff. You can see none of the budget GPUs can run it even in 1080p resolution. But pesky RTX 5050 with its latest generation RT cores comes just ahead and wins this round. Turning off path ray tracing and moving towards peasant standard ray tracing improves little bit some things, and then we get some console level FPS in 1080p resolution out of these budget GPUs. But this time is more closer than ever, somehow by hair's length. A770 just barely comes ahead with a better 1% lows, taking another unexpected win. I guess having a biggest amount of RT cores in RT battles bears fruit in this case. Removing RT equation from Cyberpunk 2077 pushes A770 to another roaring victory in all resolutions. Who could have guessed having biggest number of computational cores on paper would lead to this kind of results? Far Cry 6 has weak hardware accelerated RT implementation, designed for the pesky AMD RX 6000 generation cards. No surprising in this case, all the cards performing well even with RT on in all resolutions, except RTX 5050, which chokes at 4K resolution due to pedantic 8GB VRAM buffer, but shows leading results in 1080p and 1440p resolution. GTX 1080 Ti shows great results for without running RT graphics of course, but the last laugh gets A770, beats the competition comfortably in 4K, even the GTX 1080 Ti, which does not even run RT. Quite impressive result for A770 if you ask me. Avatar Frontiers of Pandora runs horribly on these budget cards, and that means RTX 5050 runs horribly, as other 2 were not tested on this game, as by the time I was benchmarking GTX 1080 Ti and A770 I didn't have this game. Apologies for that. But from RTX 5050 performance in all resolutions, we can see that maybe that's for the best, as the Avatar game is simply too much for these budget cards. Elden Ring is one terribly optimized game, with outdated graphics and demanding RT implementation. As you can see from 1080p data, A77 cannot handle this game very well at all, and probably lacks completely developers' optimization for the Intel cards. While RTX 5050 performs admirably decent and manages to run the game even in 1440p decently. Removing RT equation from Elden Ring give us a rare win for the yesteryear king GTX 1080 Ti. Sounds like Elden Ring outdated engine is more optimized for the older cards. For I have to say games runs really well on the old resolutions with all the cards without RT. The last benchmark game is Stalker 2, and it is a nightmare to run for any modern GPU, not mentioning these budget kings with its notorious resource gobble monster UE5 engine at front. But you have to give to the Stalker 2 developers some credits. They really tried hard to optimize this piece of shit UE5 engine for the PC hardware, and to do that they removed the hardware accelerated ray tracing implementation and made it software based to ease off on the game requirements. Hence why GTX 1080 Ti was able to run game with RT without issues. But as the most of software based RT implementations, they are terrible and makes no difference in visuals besides killing your FPS. And killing FPS it does. It's the most resource heavy game in this list, decapitating pesky RTX 5050 instantly in all resolutions due to the RAM limitations. Even on 1080p it was unplayable with 1% lows hitting 6 FPS. Surprisingly, GTX 1080 Ti was holding very well, only giving up on the higher resolutions with 1% lows and eventually succumbing to another A770 victorious battle. So now let's sum up average results, only including runs with RT graphics on. It gives us a surprising winner of a Suver's Royale A770. Even it loses barely to RTX 5050 in a 1080p resolution, it takes the lead in 1440p resolution and destroys the pesky newcomer in 4K resolution, taking the RT crown out of the favorite to win RTX 5050. Who could have guessed that Intel flagship card is better option for RT gaming than the weakest this generation NVIDIA card? Okay, those 16GB of VRAM did the heavy lifting in the higher resolutions, but still, the win is the win. I would definitely recommend a 7070 card for RT tasks, even both are not really good cards for RT computational gaming. Of course, GTX 1080 Ti was the dead last. But what do you expect? It does not have any hardware accelerated RT cores. But for the games which use a software based ray tracing, this card can still deliver some RT computational loads. After all, it is the GOAT, and you cannot underestimate this old champ. Finally, the average results of a Rasterization budget kings goes to, well, it is a tough one. Who could have thought? But looks like the GTX 1080 Ti beats the rest in the average results in 1080p and matches A770 in 1440p resolutions, and just runs out of steam in demanding 4K resolution and loses the crown to the A770. Unsurprisingly, RTX 5050 comes last. What a garbage card it is. So what is the final verdict between A770 and GTX 1080 Ti? Tie? GTX 1080 Ti is a better card in 1080p than A770, but A770 is better card in a higher resolutions and has more VRAM and better RT performance. Let's decide who is the winner after the efficiency looks. All three cards are budget ones and they naturally do not have very demanding hardware. Hence they do not produce a lot of heat. The most efficient card in this battle of course is RTX 5050. No surprises here, this is also the weakest card. RTX 5050 maximum thermal output is only 130 watts, but with my undervolting and overclocking settings, I managed to make it run faster than out of the box and produce max only around 120 to 125 watts. Really impressive numbers considering card was configured on running with 2.88 GHz clock speeds. Not that it helped to win anything, Max temperatures were 62 degrees on the core and 80 degrees on the memory module. Second most efficient card on the list is A770, which does not have any undervolting or overclocking abilities, but has thermal limitation slide which you could set up all the way to 228 watts. Yeah, that's the max thermal output of this card can produce with a clock speed maxing out at 2.4 GHz. Max temps of the card were quite high to over 76 degrees and hot spots hitting around 85 degrees, and memory temperatures maxed out at 80 degrees. The least efficient card, of course, is the oldest card in the benchmark battle, GTX 1080 Ti. But actually not by much. GTX 1080 Ti sipped around 250 watts after my undervolting and OC setup. It was running around 1866 MHz clock speed, GPU temperature maxed out at 66 degrees, hotspot at 81 degrees, and unfortunately this card does not have any temperature sensors for memory modules. Final verdict. I would say by bare 1 inch of a blade, A770 win this battle against GTX 1080 Ti. It has new more powerful architecture, more VRAM and is slightly more efficient than GTX 1080 Ti. Also, GTX 1080 Ti driver support has ended last year. So in overall, A770 wins this bloody sewers royale battle. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you are happy with the verdict. As regarding RTX 5050, if you were waiting for any more evidence that 8GB GPUs are dumb, here it is. Please just don't think of buying any 8GB of GPUs for playing any modern games which are younger than 3 years old. It would not matter at this case, even if you run Avatar or Stalker 2 on 5060 Ti, which is a much faster card than RTX 5050, results would still be the same. Simply 8GB is not enough for the modern games, and they run and look like shit on 8GB GPUs like you can see from this video. It's time to move on, guys, and you should focus now on GPUs with at least 12GB of VRAM. For example, your threshold point should be RX 6700 XT, which is a much faster card than RTX 5050. It has 12GB of VRAM and costs less than RTX 5050. This is a no-brainer budget card, not this pile of trash like RTX 5050, 5060 or 5060 Ti 8GB models. Stay away from the dumb shit. Until the next time, please subscribe. Mr. G signs out.